Hi everyone, I'm Toby. I'm Toby from Siemens. I'm working in Siemens as a project manager, and I'm here today with my colleague Nuno, who's our lead data architect in finance. And yeah, the two of us will now have the opportunity to explain you a little bit what we are doing in Siemens regarding DBT Clouds, data mesh, and so on and so forth. Maybe just some general remarks. If some of you already had been to Berlin, so the Snowflake Data Cloud World Tour, our boss was also presenting there similar things. So you might have seen something already, but on the other hand, it's really, we have a different focus here. But you might get a connection. And I'm also happy that we had that keynote before, because I think what we will now show you will very much fit together what you heard before from the DBT guys presenting that keynote. Before we actually start with what we are doing with data mesh, with DBT, and so on and so forth, I would like to give you some short introduction about Siemens, that you just understand where we are coming from, what is kind of also our footprint and magnitude as a company. So just to give you some figures, everyone likes figures, I would say, especially in the data area. We are a company with more than 300,000 employees worldwide. We are operating in more than 200 countries worldwide. And yeah, you see we have a revenue last year of around 72,000 billion with a net income of 4.4 billion, which then leads to overall a roughly profit margin of 15.1%. So much about the figures, but now what we are doing actually, what is Siemens doing as a business? So right now, we ourselves as Siemens, but also a lot of economies, a lot of companies are in a phase of digital transformation. And this is where we will, on the one hand side, go through that on our own, but we also will support economies, will support companies to go through that digital transformation with our solutions we have and we offer to the whole world, basically, and all the economies. And those are focused in 4 different areas. One is industry, infrastructure, mobility, and healthcare. But let's go on to some very concrete examples. So just imagine maybe you commute in cars that are designed with Siemens software, and those cars are built in factories which are running on Siemens automation solutions. And if you have an electronic car, it can be that it's charged by a Siemens smart grid. So this is kind of the whole industry section we are having. In the section of infrastructure, building technologies, a lot of us are working in offices. We have a lot of building technology, operational solutions and services providing that ensure that everything is set up properly, that also the whole resources are used to a good extent, and also there we connect the physical with the digital world. In the mobility sector, just imagine the train ticket you buy is bought actually based on Siemens software. The trains you're traveling in are Siemens trains, the tracks as well, and also the whole infrastructure around that tracks. And last but not least, also a lot of life-saving drugs, a lot of medical diagnoses are basically made only possible by Siemens solutions, by our dear colleagues from Siemens Healthineers. So just that you really understand where we are, what we are doing. And Siemens is a company which exists since more than 175 years. I mean, if you look into Silicon Valley, most likely they exist for some years. So we have a lot of history, and therefore I would also like to give you some short history about how we are actually doing data analytics. And don't be scared. I will not now start with 175 years back. But actually, I will start explaining where we started in our phase before where we are right now. So basically, In 2013, what we had back then, or what we said go live, was our so-called Siemens HANA Data Lake, so a big on-premise HANA landscape. At that time, we had more than 75 single ERP systems as data sources, and that was, at that point in time, a great success to introducing the data lake to have one unified view in all of those various systems. Yeah? But of course, over time, things are developing. In 2021, we had roughly 500 projects running on that ecosystem with roughly 500 developers. But then we realized there is the need to evolve, to go into the next direction, to go into cloud. I will also come later to that, what that exactly means. And then in 2021, we basically say, okay, we come up with a new evolutionary step, which is what we are calling our Siemens Data Cloud, which is from a data warehousing perspective based on Snowflake. We use DBT, but we also use different other components in that. And yeah, so in January 2022, we finally decided also to go for DBT. This is why we are here now. Otherwise, we would maybe be at a different conference for sure. Yeah, I mean, so lucky that we're here now. And once we decided, of course, big corporation, we had to take care about cybersecurity, had to do some legal contracts, all those commercial things. And then in October 22, we really said, okay, now we are live with DBT Cloud in our ecosystem. People could start using that. And if you just look at that, in October 22 and 1 year back, 1 year afterwards, which is now, we have on that ecosystem more than 800 projects running, using Snowflake, using DBT, using different BI solutions, AI, machine learning capabilities, and roughly 1,000 developers are actively working on that. So much also about the magnitude. You will also see later on from Nuno some nice figures how many users within Siemens are in the end affected by what we are doing here as a central department for data analytics and AI. And of course, in parallel, we are now ramping down our legacy system, so like the HANA Siemens Data Lake we said before. So we will reduce it to a smaller scope in January, and the plan is to really be then completed in September, which is the end of our fiscal year. That's the reason why it's September. And we see also a lot of potential growth. So we expect roughly to, again, grow by 50% up to 1,200 projects. So much about the very short version of how we ended here, basically. Yeah. Good. But let me shortly explain why are we doing that? Yeah? Because we could have also stayed with HANA. It's not in general a bad technology or so, but the whole things we are doing now changes the way of working with data and AI. One thing is performance and also for sustainability. Back in time in that HANA Data Lake, we didn't have workflow isolation. So we really needed to see that we have to ensure that everyone can independently work from each other. Otherwise, there had been negative side effects. Flexibility, scalability, I think I don't need to explain you how easier those things are when you're in the cloud. Cost transparency is also a great thing. In the past, it wasn't possible to really get a good understanding how is the cost of a concrete project going on, but rather we had a high fixed cost, which was kind of federated. Cloud agnostic, also I don't need to tell that in that room here. I think that with Snowflake and DBT, you're agnostic to the 3 big hyperscalers. Open architecture, I will later come a little bit more to data mesh, then I will explain that in more detail. A lot also about on self-service, I will also go into detail about that. All of that, of course, leads to being us better, safer, faster to bring value in the end to our businesses. Of course, being in the cloud enables so much potential to work with unstructured and semi-structured data. And what we did here is really focus a lot on reuse and data sharing, which I will also explain in a minute. Talking about data mesh, we talked about data mesh before in the keynotes. It was mentioned just to bring up at least what from my point of view are the 4 core principles. So having a self-service data and AI platform together with a data as a product principle, and those two I would say are very close linked together. On the other hand, having a clear ownership based on domains, and with that also very close linked together a federated governance. Let me explain how we handled that within Siemens. Yeah? So on the one hand side, if you look at that, I would like to explain you how we're working with data products and having a self-service platform. So assume you are here on the left-hand side, you are a data product producer. So you have a great data set and you want to share it with others. With us, everyone in our ecosystem has their own project, so Snowflake databases, DBT project, and let's assume project 1, project 2, they are data producers, they want to provide their data products to someone else. They just put it to what we are calling distribute layer, which is just another database in Snowflake in the end. And from there, we have a so-called data product designer. This is just a small Mendix application to easier handle, in the end, Snowflake tables, where you can decide what we also heard before about the metadata of a data product. So what is the contract? What is the pricing? How is the access to be restricted? Who are the data approvers? All those things we can define here. And with that, we push it to our internal marketplace, where you can just go and look for that. And that's exactly what the consumers will do. So assume you are now a consumer of you're owning project 3 here. You want to get started and you want to check, hey, what data is already there? So you just go into our marketplace, you look, and I see a nice data product. Okay, I want to have it. Then it's just checking the details in the data product design. So who is the approver? Does it need to be approved? Think about, we talk later about finance. Of course, there will be an approver. And also that will just go to an automated workflow process for data approval. That's then the only manual step, by the way, in that whole process. So someone has to approve or reject that, which is obviously still a manual process. And once it's approved, assuming that, it will just push that approval information down to the distribute layer, and then you will have that automatically available in your project. So that means kind of it's a completely automated end-to-end process, and assuming that the data approver directly approves within a few minutes, you also have it within a few minutes. Yeah? So completely automated, which is very important for us because we don't we really want to make it as easy as possible for everyone within Siemens to work with data and not kind of having some corporate IT guys being the bottleneck because we're not fast enough to deliver it. Talking about the other way, talking about domain-driven ownership, about federated governance, so the second part of the data mesh. So really, if you read that picture from bottom to top, we bring in all the different data sets into our ecosystem, mainly in Snowflake, but also in some other parts. On top of that, we have really dedicated teams working on specific domains, like Nuno from finance. Yeah, we have a sales team, logistics, IT teams, of course, doing procurement, compliance, and so on and so forth. But those are kind of creating data products in a generalized way. So that is, again, then the basis for real use cases, because in the end, there is a business need, a business value, what we are doing. And this is kind of the foundation where everyone can ensure we always use the same data product, we always use the same data, we have a consistency. Linking that together with a catalog where you just see, and also with the marketplace I was mentioning before, and especially that marketplace is really much more than just those data products. For us, it's the entry point for everyone. Yeah? So you just go in there, you say you want to have a new Snowflake project. Just go in there, request it. With that, automatically you get your own Snowflake databases. You automatically get your DBT project. You automatically get your own area in our code repository. So also fully automated. Everything you request there, you will get within very few minutes. How that really then fits to, or how that really works in a more concrete examples, and also what we did concretely that helps us really making that data mesh to life, I will now hand over to Nuno, who will give you some more insights about that.
Thanks, Toby, for the introduction. Now, really jumping right into the topic. I would start by the one I consider one of the essential foundations of our organization. We also heard it this morning in the keynote. It's also in the DBT best practices, called modular code blocks. That basically means breaking down the project into smaller and manageable independent other models that can also be called data products themselves. With the main purpose of this is basically enhancing the agility and also simplifying the maintenance. So any kind of replacements or updates that needs to be done on the data product would be simplified if we use this concept. Now, together with this one, we also decentralize the data products across different teams, which can also be called the data domains themselves. And by doing so, we distribute the responsibility and the ownership across those teams. And at the same time, we also make those teams accountable for their data. So basically, those any requirements that need to be fulfilled for the data to be set productive, those teams will take care of that. And with that, we walk into the direction of a reducing of the risk in case of failure. Now, we also establish a data product to be a single and authoritative source of consistency and accuracy that basically aims to reduce all the duplication. So it'd be duplication of effort, duplication of records, everything, walking into the direction of embracing a culture of single source of truth. Now, with all of this together, so splitting the data products into smaller pieces and distributing the data products across different teams, we walk into the direction of independent scaling that will come with the faster developments and also leading to, of course, smaller time to market processing times. And also, because all the teams are working in their fields of expertise, they also feel empowered to iterate, to experiment within their own data domains, within their own data products, which will foster and encourage people to innovate. Right, now, because we wanted to bring here a real live example of a project, this is a well-known project within Siemens, so it's really widely used. We are used to call it BA-. It stands for Business Activities Dashboard. And it's basically a central finance solution that aims to consolidate figures all across Siemens, basically financial figures such as orders, revenue, sales margin, for example. And also, just to give you a brief overview of the size of the table, we are talking about a 4 billion records table. And when it comes to the sources it uses, mainly 90% of the data it uses is coming from SAP ERP systems. We are talking about 35 different ERP systems. Sometimes it gets the data also from the domains. You'll see an example from DOM Finance in just a few moments. And basically, to build all this process, a daily load takes 3,500 different tables to be prepared. Also, in terms of usage, we have 65 different use cases on top of this data. We also do some predictive forecasting on this. Also, internally, we share it all across the finance projects. And when it comes to our front ends, we count 7,000 direct users just using our own. So, of course, the others we cannot really count because they use it through different use cases, but on our own we have this number. And also because we are here to talk about the migration or this journey we've been doing, we saw from an early stage that a lift and drop process would just not work for us. So basically, it would work, of course, it would be possible to create, but it would mean a lot of impact on the costs and on the performance itself. So we kind of compiled here the 3 steps we gave in order to improve those things. So let me start by the efficient data materialization. We basically just started using the DBT incremental materialization. So really focusing on the latest data available on the tables, instead of just reloading the full table every time we needed to load. We just basically load a smaller scope of it, so a few number of lines. Those are the few number of lines that we also need to do transformations on, any kind of joins, any kind of updates, and that you can imagine has a real impact on the performance. So we reduced a lot the loading times by doing so. Yeah, and together with this, we also created or make use now of the parallel processing. So just to give you an example, we were not able or the way we were loading data in our on-premises system was loading all this, you can imagine this 35 different ERP systems all sequentially, so one after the other, as opposed to what we do now is basically put everything in different streams, also use the DBT, and it says that if a model is not dependent on the one running, it can just start automatically running, and then we have all those different streams and everything can run in parallel, which of course will lead to a decrease in terms of loading times. Now the third one, and obviously not less important than the others, the proactive data focus. We basically, together with the business, decided on the rules that they want to be met in the end of a daily load, so that the data can be productive, so they can check their data in the morning or whenever we do the loads. And for that, we integrated different sets of DBT tests all across the process. Yeah, that basically brings trust between us and the users, of course, and because we also do it in an automated way, we don't really need to have someone in the morning checking the data before it's set productive. And of course, brings trust, and it keeps us from having sleepless nights. Now, to put all of this into numbers, on our on-premises world, we are not able to do a daily load in less than 6 hours, whereas now we are able to do so in 25 minutes. And when it comes to costs, we also saw a reduction of 90% of the costs. All right, today, in this very same stage, DBT has just presented their newest feature, or their two newest features, so DBT Explorer within the broad scope of the DBT mesh. It is for us really a big step forward in the direction of or how DBT is helping other companies to embrace this culture of data mesh, to bring the data mesh to their companies, to their architecture. And DBT Explorer, how it works right now, it's basically uses the metadata of a successfully run job to create a better overview on this number of features, so models, tests, metrics, macros, lineage, for example. And also what is now possible is also the referencing, the cross-project referencing. So basically we can see from our lineage a model of another project. And the way we can do that, we show you an example. So be a dash in the center, being both used as a consumer and a producer. And basically the way we have to make those models public and visible for the next project is we basically choose, of course, a model. We then make it public. We need to also assign it to a group. And other two things DBT has presented as well during the keynote was also the contracts that have now been made possible and the versioning. I would like now to start a short video where we kind of present what we did in BA-, how we handled that, and also some hints and tips of how DBT Explorer works. So first of all, I just want to show you a simple model where a model from a different project is being used. So in this case, we have STG C1 in union in BA-, which is using this C1 union in DOM Finance. So you cannot directly see it from there that it's coming from DOM Finance, but in DBT Explorer, you'll be able to see it. Now, just wanted to shortly as well compile this code right here, and you'll see that it will point to the distribution layer Toby talked before. And for its turn, distribution layer is then pointing to the DOM Finance view, to the right model. Now, I wanted to show you the exact same model, but now in DBT Explorer. You'll see that there you'll see all the dependencies, so the model coming from a different project, you'll see directly there the dependencies, so this C1 union, in this case, it's then depends on finance. And already to give you some tips of what is possible to be done in DBT Explorer. So if we press once on a model, we'll see some details here. If you press twice, you just go on another window, you'll see more details. So for example, the last status, as well as when it was lastly refreshed, the model. And it's obviously possible to be as well done on the other projects model. So if you do it on this C1 in this case, you'll see the details there. But if you press twice, and I'd like you to see up there that we also changed quickly from BA- now to DOM Finance. So switching from one project to the other is really quick. And what we see here is basically BA- being used as a consumer of DOM Finance. Now, if we want to go back, it's just basically as easy as just really going back. And the last thing I wanted to show you is within the models. Here we'll have a list of all the models that we've been created. It also comes with the groups that they were assigned to. And if we open now this one that has been assigned to a group, it's a public model. And now just wanted to show you BA- being used as a producer, in this case for a project called Netherlands. Right, how do we handle that in the backend? So from a producer point of view, in this case it's DOM Finance, we need to create a YAML file, which will hold the, of course, name of the model. Then we need to make it public, and we also assign it to a group. And from a DBT Explorer perspective, so once you do that, all those models will be visible on the public models tab, together with where they were defined in. So in this case, of course, it's DOM Finance where they were defined in. And when we come to a consumer point of view, so in this case, again, BA-, we'll need to create a dependencies YAML, write there all the models or all the name of the projects that we'll be reading from. And we'll also have here is just a simplification of the model, but the model that it's reading from a different project. And on DBT Explorer, you'll see all the dependencies. So the two public models that have been created on DOM Finance, then being used downstream on BA-. And if BA- is then producing to someone else to consume, it will then be visible down the line. Right, just to also summarize what both me and Toby have been talking about here, the current status of our Siemens Data Cloud is that we count now to 70,000 different end users that are now being served by 800 plus projects. And among those, we have 300 projects that have been migrated within a year. When it comes to DBT Cloud, we are using a single DBT instance that is now serving 550 plus developers working on those existing 5,000 different active models. And among those, we have 2,500 different active models that are running every day. Also, to wrap up in terms of the current status of DBT Explorer together with the DBT Mesh, these steps been given by DBT in the last months. Where we currently stand is that we now have an improved visibility on the lineage. And as well, they have made a lot easier the way we do data governance and the way we handle the contracts. For the future, we as Siemens and as a user of DBT, what we would like to see in the future is that it's made possible to do a job orchestration between projects, as well as it's possible then to see the full lineage of end-to-end. So whether it's inside DBT or not, but to really be able to do so. And yeah, that was it. I'm Nuno, this is Toby. It was a pleasure for us being here. Thanks a lot to all of you. Thanks a lot to DBT for also wanting us to present in this stage. Please feel free to reach out to us in case of any questions. And again, thanks a lot.